Welcome to the Defining Moments Black Men series of the Authentic Joe Show. I'm your host, Jolena Johnson, and it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Zach Hawkins to our show today. How are you, Zach?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good, thank you. I want to call you Zachary, and you're calling me Joe, so it's so funny. Okay, I'm probably gonna call you Zachary instead of Zach. It's so cool.
Please. When I hear Zachary, I think I'm in trouble and my mama's calling me.
So, can you tell us a little about yourself, your occupation, and your background?
Okay, so in terms of my background and occupation, I guess I'm in the financial services industry. And over the last 15 years, I'll just give you a summary really quickly. So I've worked with big bank. I've worked also in the fintech industry. I worked with one of the largest fintech providers for financial services, and fintech is an acronym for financial services. And now I'm currently in cloud technology. And my roles have been varied, but primarily focused around business development, sales, account management, and essentially helping our organizations face off with some of the larger Fortune 100 companies and delivering solutions to those. So essentially, what I do is I galvanize the resources of our firm, and then I work as a leader, sales leader, to either close deals, help companies grow their revenue, and essentially help them operate more efficiently, which is just a roundabout way of saying, I'm pretty much a lead sales guy working with large organizations, essentially.
Yes, and you've worked on Wall Street and some of those other things. So how about we'll just say that that'll help because other people fintech, this, and this. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows what fintech is? But
Now we learn this means financial services, everyone. Okay.
there you go.
Okay. So how would you describe yourself?
I think I'm a bit of a hybrid. First of all, a husband. Obviously, that's one of the most important things I get to do. One of the fun things I get to do. A father, and then I'm probably a creative guy posing as a businessman.
Yes.
So there's a professional side, there's a business side, and then a very creative side. So I would say I'm a bit of a chameleon, but like to have fun and like to drive businesses and make deals happen.
Okay, very good. Okay, if you had to pick a phrase that would be the theme for your life, what would that be?
Whoa. That's you got me started here. That doesn't happen often, right? Let's see. Hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy. Oh, that's good. Okay, can you explain that?
Well, it's about making things happen. It's about when there's things that you want to get accomplished, whether it's in the business world, whether it's personally, or whether it is dealing with initiatives or even just creativity. You know, Thinking about something and hoping that things are going to happen. You have to take it a step further. You have to actually have a bias for action. You have to put some plans in place. You have to kind of roll up your sleeves. You have to kind of do things to kind of increase the probability of it happening. So it's really more of a phrase that I use. Like, it was a book that I read, a sales book back in the day, and it kind of highlights that you have to you can't plant corn in the winter. You have to, pretty much you got to do all the work and do to give yourself the best chance to have success. So it's
That's
all about
fantastic.
making things happen.
Yes, I love it. So hope is not a strategy. That's good, especially for people who might be prone to procrastinate. That's
Right,
very, very good. Thank you.
right.
Well, you got me there. I love it.
It took me a minute. Took me a minute to think
Okay.
about that one.
So oftentimes people will say, well, what is a defining moment? So let me share. A
Okay.
defining moment is a point in life when a pivotal decision must be made or when an experience fundamentally changes a person. What defining moment would you be willing to share with us today?
I thought of a lot of defining moments, but this one stuck out the most to me, and it was early in my marriage when my wife and I, we had been married a couple of years. We had our second kid along, a second son on the way. We had just bought a house that needed remodeling, and we hired a contractor to do the work. And while the contractor was going to do the work, we stayed in a hotel, the Budget Inn, by the way, not the Four Seasons. And then so it was pivotal because we had a lot at stake, and the contractor didn't do any of the work, probably 10% of the work that he was paid to do. So we ended up giving him half of the money up front. So here we are. We got this new house, well, a house that badly needed to be renovated.
Mhm.
My wife is Karen is in a hotel with one son and pregnant with the next, right? And then I don't have any experience in renovating. And now the contractor has left with half the money. He didn't finish the work. So we've got to figure out how to finish this job, right? How to get this thing done. And it was defining because I think it hit on a lot of different cylinders, meaning, there a lot of us do side projects or real estate projects while you're working, but you also have to continue to do the things that you do to work and to raise your family. And so it basically was a moment where here I am thinking about all that needs to be done without having any experience to get it done, and very little resources to get it done because we pretty much we were tapped out in terms of borrowing the money for the house, for the renovation. And then we also are spending money at the hotel because we can't get out of there until the house is done. So that was a defining moment because it really tested me in many ways and my family.
And how long have you been married now?
Wow, 27 years in May.
Okay, good answer. You got it right.
No more trick questions, Joe. I'm just kidding. Yeah, 27 years and a few more months.
Okay, good. So this was what, maybe 4 years in, maybe?
Yeah, three years in. Well, actually, so Zion was on the way. So probably 25 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
2 years in, yeah.
So what happened as a result of the defining moment? So obviously you had to take some action. So how did you save your marriage?
I became my own contractor. I picked up some tools. I learned how to lay hardwood floors. I learned how to negotiate with subs. Yeah, I learned how to, to do basically, and I engaged my family, my wife in that process, Karen in that process. So we basically just had to do everything in the evenings and weekends. We spent time at the house getting it ready and borrowed as much as we could to kind of finish what we needed to get done. But essentially just took all the action steps, learned a whole lot along the process, and we were able to finish it, believe it or not. It took a lot to do it, though.
And of all the things, because you are very successful, I know you're very humble, but you have the best car on the market. I guess you still have that car. And so, as you said, it was difficult, and I meant what I said about saving your marriage. You have a pregnant woman living in a budget inn.
Yes.
Okay, so
she's a ride or die.
That says a lot about who you picked, and it also says a lot about you, because she could have said, "I'm going to my daddy's house. I'm leaving you."
No, she basically she got on board with me, and she helped me finish that project. Basically, so
and since then, you guys have been doing what in your spare time?
We have done several renovations of conservation district and historical homes since then.
Yes. So what turned out as an urgent, dire need ended up being a kind of a lifelong hobby, would you say?
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the things that I learned the most from that, and it is taking accountability, because truthfully, as a leader, and you say saving your marriage, as a leader of the family, and it was that decision to hire that contractor that actually put us in that scenario. So I had to take accountability for making that decision. And then since then, I think life can present challenges to you. If you actually take those challenges and you get some skills from it, it presents maybe some gaps in your experience, some gaps in your ability to make things happen. If you take that and learn from it, you really can grow from it and build upon it. So there are things that I did in that experience that helped me to understand, how to actually renovate a house. I had to dig deep because I had to do a lot of the work itself. And since then, most of the projects that we do, I can take control of it, whether, I actually hire someone else to do a lot of the work or not, but I at least understand what needs to happen to finish the projects. And that credibility that you have when you're dealing with people can go far. But it was, to be honest with you, at that time, I was homicidal, not suicidal. I wanted to kill that contractor, which probably wouldn't have done any good for us. But I think it basically led me in a totally different path. And right today, I can truly say it was probably one of the best things that happened to us, because immediately after that, we ended up, moving to the Northeast. So the reason I chose this as, I would say, a defining moment, because there are a lot of things that happened after this
Mhm.
immediately after this that took us in a whole different direction in terms of our family. And
Mhm.
me as growing as a father and a husband and also a professional, that there are many deals that I have been involved in over the last decade or so that have been high stakes deals with organizations, and the negotiation that has to take place, and understanding leverage and understanding how to manage your risk and understanding how to deal with people and reading temperament and all of that, and personality
Mhm.
types, communication styles. I think that experience toughened me a bit and
Mhm.
made me be a lot more diligent about the business moves that I've made from that time. So it may have been almost like an introduction to hard knocks, right?
Yes, I love it. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Based on that experience, what are three pieces of advice? I'm going to ask you this twice in two different areas. What
Okay.
are three pieces of advice you would give someone if they did find themselves in a position as a leader in the home and they realize, I mean, this is serious. I got a little one and I got one in the oven, and my wife is staying in the budget in. So, what did it take from you? What are three pieces of advice? What would you recommend if somebody was in a similar situation to do or start doing immediately? One of them probably has to be an apology, but or
Yes.
accountability, I'm sure, right?
it it starts with accountability.
Mhm.
When it first happened, the things that I said to myself and the things may have said internally were more about, I can't believe that he would do this. I can't believe this would happen. Then I'll be honest with you, I was even thinking to myself, I went so deep to say, wow, had my father been around when I was younger, maybe I'd know how to do some construction. Maybe I could do framing. Maybe I could do those things, because it kind of hit me. It struck me really hard because we didn't have many of the resources to kind of finish it. And then I think the first thing I would say is take accountability for where you are. Take ownership is really, that's the first message I would have.
Okay.
Own the issue,
Okay.
own the solution as well.
Mhm.
Because what I learned most of all is if we were going to get out of that budget in, action was going to have to be taken. And I would say don't spend a whole lot of time diagnosing the issue
Mhm.
if there's work that needs to be done.
Mhm.
So the first one is really accountability,
Mhm.
and then just really as quickly as you possibly can
Mhm.
accept where you are with
Mhm.
that situation. And this, in this context, we're talking about a home and talking about a renovation. But
Mhm.
in marriage, and not just in marriage and relationships in general, there are
Mhm.
things that pop up that don't are not dealing with renovations, but you still have to take stock of where you are. You
Yes.
have to say, this is kind of where we are, and we need to move forward. And I would say, take accountability and diagnose it, but not too long,
Okay.
because you really need to be, you don't need to continue digging. If you're in a hole, don't
Mhm.
continue, stop digging.
Mhm.
Just start moving forward, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to, you can, in order for you to make progress, action has to be taken. So identify what needs to be done. And even if you don't understand it completely, which I didn't in that instance, when you
Mhm.
start taking positive steps and you start nipping or just taking pieces of that project down, you'd be surprised at how quickly you can get to the end of the road.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay. So when it comes to life and business, I'm just going to tell everybody I'm related to Zachary. He's my favorite cousin on the whole in the whole wide world.
Absolutely. Same here. Joe's my favorite cousin. Absolutely. Without a
Oh, I'm
doubt.
gonna get in trouble with your brother. Oh shoot,
Oh,
he already knows.
they already know. They already know. They know what's going on.
But when it comes to business, I mean, I remember when you got your first job, at the telecom, I guess we'll call it telecommunications, and you were doing
Yes.
sales there. And then, for you to go from there to Wall Street to all the things you're doing, especially as a Black man, and that's what this series is featuring, Black men. What are three things you would tell a Black man, especially maybe a younger Black man, your sons, in today's world in 2023 to be successful? Because I think there it's a different world, and I don't know if, although we've made some strides. So this is your chance. What are three things you would tell them to do or not to do to be successful today, Zachary?
Okay. Let me see if I can stay on task here. The first of the three things, the first thing I would say is that oftentimes we are having to start at a foundational level
Mhm.
in what we're doing, whether it be work, whether it be, business, and even with relationships. I would say do your best to try to get through those steps, understanding each aspect of them.
Okay.
And basically, and don't, because we have aspirations in life, but let's be clear that success is a stepwise process.
Okay.
So when you think about business, my first job was taking 10-cent calls off Mrs. Johnson's bill
Mm-hmm.
in telecom,
Mm-hmm.
in a sales role, inside sales roles. But actually, it was a customer service role, which
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So every role that I've had since then was a building block for the next opportunity. So by the time I've gotten to, in more senior roles in my careers, I have a really good understanding of what happens at the ground level, the mid level, and pretty much all throughout the organization. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say, do your very best to take on opportunities and not do those in a way to where you feel like no, some job is too low for you, because
Okay.
they all are part of the ecosystem in the process. And when you continue to progress, you'll know a lot more than people that have not taken those steps. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say be willing to do, I know it's a cliche, but be willing to do a lot of the hard work,
Mm-hmm.
but take your time in those different roles and learn what you can to make those things happen. I
Okay.
would say another thing is, um, self-worth is a critical thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many voices that will, and sometimes intentionally or non-intentionally, try to, not help you feel good about yourself. That's really something that you want to continue to work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just ensuring that you understand your value, and that
Mm-hmm.
value is increasing each and every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second piece. And then the third part of it is, it's just breathe and be calm about, it's almost about managing your emotions,
Yes.
because there's a lot of emotions that we have, and especially in the world, within organizations, within relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and try to be as aware as you can of your emotions and how they're impacting your decisions and how people are interacting with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about putting in the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have an opportunity to get into opportunities where we are at the top of the house, because we have
Mm-hmm.
some talent or some skill, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not always the case. So
Mm-hmm.
don't look down on starting over again, because in life you may have to move from one industry to the next. You may have to start in, it may not be sales, it may be marketing, it may be even something that's more gritty than that.
Mm-hmm.
So you be willing to take all those steps, but learn from those and
Mm-hmm.
recognize that there are opportunities that can come from those if you get what the experience you need from that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say. So those are the three areas that I would, and emotional intelligence, self-awareness, you know, don't always react,
Mm-hmm.
try to be as positive as you can, and
Mm-hmm.
try to be as kind to people as you possibly can. And those things will pay off.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say before we go, meeting you when I was young, at our family reunion, that was definitely a defining moment in my life. Finding out that your uncle and my mom were so close, and just that we had so many things in common. You've always been a guiding light in my life, the big brother I never had. And I just want to thank you. I'm so proud of you and your success, and your grounding, and just being you, that same fun person that used to play the drums and all that kind of stuff, and that's just excited about life. And I just love you and I respect you so much. And I thank you for coming on and just taking a few minutes with us. And thank you for always continuing to push and just be your best. It's very inspiring.
But Joe, I would tell you, you are definitely one of my favorite people of all time. You happen to be a cousin, so it makes you my favorite cousin as well. And looking at what you've done throughout the years and how you've impacted the lives of those that you've been in touch with, that you've been in communication with, and how much we love you, and how your light shines so bright, and how there's so much more you will be doing. Right?
Thank you,
So,
Zachary. I
so it's
appreciate it.
always been an inspiration to me, and I would not have missed this for anything.
Thank you. So before we go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
You know, um, I really probably should have given more thought to what I was going to say today. It's been kind of it's been kind of off the cuff. I think I was able to share what I wanted to share, and let me take it back to the defining moment. I would say that what I thought, well, life oftentimes will present us with challenges and issues, and things that we look at as being obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, most of the things that I've encountered, including that renovation, if I had not gone through that and learned all the things that I've learned, you know, I would not have been able to be as successful with homes we're working with, and also it's helped me on the business side. So I would just say that when people get things that appear to be obstacles, challenges, really, really dive deeply into those, because in those can unlock a whole lot of success, a whole lot of growth for you. And just maybe if you kind of take a step back from it and recognize that some of the best things that will ever happen to you will come from, the challenges you face. That's the only thing I would just say. Just take a different look at them and see, how can I solve this? What are ways that I can get around this? What people can I engage? And I would say, from a relationship standpoint, that defining moment probably made my marriage, from that point on, tighter. So it was something that you said, how do you keep the marriage together? To be honest with you, that might have been one of the things that brought us closer long term.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's a great way to end it. So, ladies and gentlemen, do not give up. Stay resilient. Stay persistent. You can do it.
That's
Thank you,
it.
Zachary.
Take care, Joe. Great
You
seeing
too.
you.
You
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.